Imagine you have just been handed a magic wand. You wave it, and the one thing you have struggled with your entire life, that stubborn, unyielding excess weight, simply begins to melt away. The numbers on the scale drop week after week. 40, 50, maybe even 100 pounds just vanish. It sounds like the ultimate triumph, doesn't it? But what if I told you that beneath the surface of this modern medical miracle, a silent crisis is unfolding? What if the very process of shrinking is quietly dismantling your body's structural foundation?
That is the exact paradox we are facing today in the era of revolutionary weight loss medications. People are stepping on the scale and celebrating, but they are completely unaware of what they are actually losing. In the clinical world, we are shifting our focus entirely toward the quality of weight loss. Anyone can make the scale go down if they simply stop eating. But if a massive chunk of that lost weight is your lean muscle tissue, you are not actually getting healthier. You are just becoming a smaller, much weaker, and metabolically fragile version of yourself.
It is like successfully draining a flooded house, but accidentally dissolving the load-bearing walls in the process. Sure, the water is gone, but the house is about to collapse. This brings us to the absolute core of our discussion today. We are looking at the dark side of massive, rapid weight loss, and, more importantly, how to build an impenetrable defense against it. We need to talk about how to keep the metabolic engine roaring while the fat disappears, effectively avoiding the dreaded skinny fat trap.
The skinny fat trap is a brilliant way to describe it. When you lose muscle, your basal metabolic rate plummets. Muscle is highly active, metabolically expensive tissue. It burns calories just existing. If you lose it, your body requires significantly fewer calories to survive. So, what happens when you eventually stop taking the medication, or your body adapts? The weight comes roaring back, but it comes back almost entirely as fat, because the muscle, the engine that burned the calories, is gone. It is a biological tragedy.
Let us dive into the first line of defense, which is what we put on our plates. Or, more accurately, what we struggle to put on our plates. When someone is on these medications, their appetite is virtually non-existent. The mere thought of eating a dense piece of chicken breast or a heavy meal can feel entirely repulsive. So, the natural instinct is to just live on a few bites of salad, maybe a smoothie, and ride the wave of weight loss. Why is that such a catastrophic approach?
Because of how ruthless the human body is when it comes to survival. If you are in a massive calorie deficit, which these medications induce by shutting down your hunger cues, your body starts looking for fuel. It will tap into your fat stores, yes, but fat is just stored energy. Your body also needs amino acids to repair cells, produce hormones, and keep your vital organs functioning. If you are not eating enough protein, your body turns to its own muscle tissue. It will literally cannibalize your biceps, your quads, and your back muscles to harvest the amino acids it desperately needs to keep your liver and heart running.
So the body is basically eating itself to stay alive. That paints a terrifying picture. It completely reframes how we need to view food on this journey. We cannot just look at food as calories anymore. We have to look at protein as a mandatory prescription.
Exactly. You have to treat protein with the exact same strictness as the medication you are injecting. Even if you have zero appetite, hitting your protein target is non-negotiable. The goal of sustainable fat loss is to shrink the fat stores without becoming physically weak. Every time you consume a high-protein meal, you are sending a biochemical signal to your system that says, "We have enough building blocks coming in from the outside. Leave the muscle tissue alone. Go burn the fat instead."
That shift in mindset is massive, especially when we look at different cultural diets. Think about traditional diets, heavily reliant on massive portions of carbohydrates. A giant bowl of rice or noodles is comforting, but in this specific metabolic state, it is essentially a wasted opportunity. It seems like the strategy needs to be swapping out those heavy carbs for things like lentils, tofu, edamame, or lean meats to fundamentally alter the metabolic outcome.
That is a highly practical way to approach it. You only have so much room in your stomach now. The real estate in your digestive system has become incredibly valuable. You cannot afford to fill it with foods that do not protect your lean mass. Prioritizing protein at the absolute beginning of every meal ensures you get the medicine your muscles need before the premature fullness kicks in.
Okay, so let us say I am being diligent. I am forcing down the protein, prioritizing the tofu and the lean meats. I am hitting my targets, but I am still just sitting on the couch all day, watching the pounds drop. The protein alone cannot magically preserve the muscle if I am not using it, right?
You have hit on the second equally critical piece of the puzzle. Eating protein provides the building blocks, but you still need a blueprint. You have to give your body a compelling, biological reason to keep the muscle around. Muscle is heavy, it requires a lot of oxygen, and it burns a lot of calories. From an evolutionary standpoint, in a state of starvation, which is what a severe calorie deficit mimics, muscle is a luxury your body wants to discard.
Because keeping it would be like keeping a massive, gas-guzzling SUV running in the driveway during a fuel shortage. The body wants to trade it in for a highly efficient, tiny car.
That is a perfect metaphor. And the only way to stop the body from selling off the SUV is to prove that you absolutely need it to survive. That is where resistance training comes in. Lifting heavy weights sends an unmistakable survival signal to your central nervous system. It tells your brain, we are lifting heavy things. We need this structural tissue to survive our environment. Do not break it down.
This completely shatters the traditional weight loss dogma. For decades, the advice has been to just jump on a treadmill and sweat it out. People on these medications often gravitate straight to endless hours of cardio because it feels like they are actively burning away the fat.
And that is one of the most dangerous myths in modern fitness. Cardio is phenomenal for your cardiovascular system, your heart health, and your endurance. But if you are in a massive calorie deficit and the only exercise you do is steady-state cardio, your body will actually accelerate muscle loss. Think of your body like a hot air balloon trying to stay afloat. If it needs to get lighter, it will happily throw the heavy sandbags, your muscle, overboard. Cardio tells the body to become as light and efficient as possible. Resistance training tells the body to stay strong and robust.
So doing only cardio on a GLP-1 is essentially accelerating the skinny fat phenomenon. You are just shrinking into a weaker version of yourself. That is profound. It makes you realize that looking healthy in a sweater and actually being metabolically healthy are two entirely different universes.
Precisely. You want the difference between looking smaller and actually being biologically younger and stronger. If you do not apply mechanical tension to your muscles, all the protein in the world will not save them. You have to lift, push, and pull. It does not mean you need to become a competitive bodybuilder, but you have to challenge the tissue consistently.
We have the nutrition locked in, treating protein as medicine. We have the mechanical tension, sending the survival signal through resistance training. But there is a third dimension that often gets completely ignored because it happens when we are doing absolutely nothing. What role does our environment, our stress, and our recovery play in this equation?
It plays the role of the ultimate orchestrator. You can have the best diet and the best training program, but if your nervous system is in a constant state of panic, your body will refuse to adapt positively. When you are rapidly losing weight, your body is under an immense amount of physiological stress. If you compound that with chronic psychological stress and terrible sleep, your cortisol levels skyrocket.
And cortisol is notoriously catabolic, right? It actively breaks down tissue.
Yes, chronic cortisol elevation is a muscle killer. It breaks down muscle tissue to flood the bloodstream with glucose for a fight-or-flight response that never actually resolves. But the true magic of recovery lies in sleep. Sleep and fat loss are inextricably linked. It is during deep, slow-wave sleep that your pituitary gland releases the majority of your human growth hormone. That hormone is the master conductor of muscle repair and fat oxidation. If you are sleeping 5 hours a night, you are completely undermining the grueling work you did in the gym.
It is fascinating how interconnected the brain and the body are in this process. It is not just about mechanics. It is about neurochemistry. Managing dopamine, managing light exposure to keep the circadian rhythm anchored. It all feeds back into how the body regulates appetite and decides what tissue to keep.
It absolutely does. Viewing morning sunlight regulates your cortisol pulse for the day and sets a timer for melatonin release at night, which guarantees deeper sleep. Better sleep means better growth hormone release. It is a beautiful, cascading biological loop. When you are artificially altering your metabolic state with a powerful medication, optimizing these natural circadian levers becomes more important, not less.
It really forces us to step back and look at the philosophical implications of all this. We are so obsessed with the 3-0, day transformation, the quick fix, the immediate gratification of a smaller waistline. But what we are really talking about here is longevity science. The goal should not be to just look thin at 40. The goal should be to possess the physical armor and strength to live independently, completely robust, at age 80.
That is the ultimate truth of this entire journey. We have to admit the uncertainty and openly discuss the trade-offs of modern medicine. The trade-off of rapid, chemically induced weight loss is the severe risk of losing your physical armor. But the beauty is that we are not helpless victims of this trade-off. If you follow the data, if you apply the science of protein synthesis, mechanical tension, and neurological recovery, you can essentially hack the system. You can have the life-changing fat loss of the medication while maintaining the strength and vitality of an athlete.
It is about taking radical ownership of the process. So, if we were to distill this entire complex biological symphony into a daily mandate for anyone navigating this path, what is the ultimate blueprint?
It comes down to a non-negotiable trinity. First, prioritize protein relentlessly to protect your lean tissue. It is the biochemical shield. Second, lift weights consistently to send the survival signal to your muscles. It is the structural foundation. Third, guard your sleep and manage your stress to ensure your body can actually recover and rebuild. It is the ultimate healing environment. And above all, remain practical. This is not a sprint to a finish line. It is the sustainable integration of habits for the rest of your life.
A marathon, not a sprint. It is a powerful reminder that while science can give us incredible tools to overcome metabolic hurdles, it cannot do the foundational work for us. We still have to build the house, brick by brick. This has been an incredibly eye-opening exploration into the hidden mechanics of weight loss. It changes the entire paradigm from just losing weight to actually architecting a resilient body.
It is a paradigm shift that will save a lot of people from long-term metabolic damage. The science is clear. We just have to be willing to apply it.
Absolutely. We have covered the defense today, how to protect the muscle. Next time, we are going to pivot to the offense. We will be diving deep into the fascinating world of metabolic flexibility. We will explore how to train your body to seamlessly switch between burning carbohydrates and burning stored fat, turning you into a highly efficient energy machine. You will not want to miss it. Until then, keep your protein high, lift something heavy, and get some sleep.